Tesla have just purchased a gas station, and they've converted this gas or petrol station into an EV charging station. So it looks a little bit like a gas station, but actually you probably rock up there in your petrol-powered Ford F-150 and go to plug it in and realize actually this is not the right energy. However, the interesting thing about this story is that this has been happening all over the planet. In fact, Shell have even transformed some of their own petrol and gas stations into EV charging stations. But even better than all this, guys, is the reality here that Shell plans on 50,000 roadside charging points, 50,000 of them. And they believe that this is the future of petrol stations. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. In an article in 2021, The Driven writes that the future of petrol stations, Shell opens first EV charging hub fully converted from fossil fuels. Now, this was a gas station that was converted into an EV charging station. Another one like this is actually in London. There was a Shell petrol station that's now an EV-only charging station. But Tesla are probably doing this at an even faster pace than Shell. And Tesla actually purchased this petrol station or gas station in Spain, and then they revolutionized it. They made it look cool. They painted it. Honestly, it looked so old and crap. And Tesla haven't done that much, given it a paint job, but they've changed. They've taken out those petrol pumps and they've installed new superchargers. Now, I'm not sure what level these are. Are these Tesla's new level 4 superchargers? Hopefully they are, because those superchargers are going to be capable of 500 kilowatt EV charging and 1.2 megawatt charging for trucks and buses. Now that would be awesome. But either way, this is still a really cool story. I thought it was pretty cool to see that Tesla stuck with the existing petrol station look. So it looks like a petrol station, it looks like a gas station, but it's Tesla branded. So I mean, it's probably unlikely someone would come along and drive in here and think it's a petrol station or a gas station. Most people would know who Tesla are, I think, but some people might do it, and that'd be kind of funny. Now, this isn't, like I said, this is not the first time this has ever happened. In fact, it's been done many times by different companies converting gas stations and petrol stations into EV charging stations. But I love seeing this. Now, Shell say they're actually going to sell off 1,000 petrol stations and gas stations because they're pivoting to EV charging. Now, this was actually an article from March 20 in 2024. Shell said, as part of our energy transition strategy, we plan to shed some of our retail locations, more than 1,000 of them, including gas stations, to focus more on EV charging sites. We are upgrading our retail network with expanded electric vehicle charging and convenience offers in response to changing customer demands. Shell said in its 2024 Energy Transition Strategy report, the company plans to divest over 1,000 petrol stations or gas stations. So somebody's going to buy them, or I don't know what's going to happen with them, but hopefully they just shut them down. The closures will shrink the company's retail footprint by 2.1%. That's actually pretty significant, because Shell in 2023 had 47,000 locations. So it is a significant change. Now, is it enough? Probably not. However, Shell said it is focusing its efforts particularly on China and Europe, where the EV market is more developed and demand is higher for public EV chargers. They say they aim to increase the number of charge points they have from the 54,000 they have today to 200,000 by 2030. So Shell wants to have 200,000 charging points by 2030. That's a pretty big number, and you can clearly see that even oil companies are very well aware of this transition away from internal combustion to EVs. Thanks for watching. A lot of Australians are concerned that the power grid here can't handle electric cars. And, if you're a car company who doesn't make and sell EVs, then there's probably a good chance that your CEO at one point in time has said, EVs will collapse the power grid. They're unsustainable because the grid will just be annihilated. Is that actually true? Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Keep in mind, many people, when they buy an electric car, do install solar. It's very, very common that this happens. It's kind of a cool side effect that when you buy an EV, a lot of people go, hang on a minute, why don't I charge this with free electricity? And they go and think, actually, I'm going to get some solar. And they obviously do the numbers. They realize solar is actually a no-brainer. I published an article which went into great depth on the research behind how much money you can make in the United States, or will make on average, if you buy a solar system. Now, the average payback, apparently in the US, over a 15-year period is said to be up to $50,000, which seems too good to be true, especially considering the fact that solar here in Australia is about 50 to 60% cheaper than what it costs in the United States. Speaking of solar, I have a new solar system here. I had an old one on my house. It wasn't producing that much power. It was a 5 kilowatt system. I've changed now. I have a 26 kilowatt or 25.6 kilowatt system, and it produces enough power on most days of the year to fully charge, in fact, on nearly all days, to fully charge an electric car from 0 to 100%. So if you want to use the company that I use, which I have the best reviews in Australia, I will put a link in the description. Now, Tesla have said that actually the power grid here can handle 1 million EVs easily. Now, that Tesla are being kind of misquoted here as to say the power grid can handle 1 million EVs, but they're just simply saying it can easily handle 1 million EVs, but it can handle more than this. Electric vehicle uptake doesn't pose a threat to Australia's power grid, according to local Tesla Energy Director Joseph Tadich. There's a bit more of this story, guys, and I'll explain what that is. But first, speaking at the All Energy Conference, Mr. Tadich told attendees EV charging represents a very small portion of Australia's power usage, and claimed that even an explosion in EV sales would not change that. That's about 0.1% of the NEM national electricity demand. So if we go to 1 million vehicles in Australia, that's going to be a bit less than 1% of annual demand, or I should say of annual electricity demand here in Australia. Mr. Ditch also claimed presently wasted renewable energy could comfortably supply the energy required to power an expanded charging network. So what he's saying here is that in Australia, we're curtailing or wasting literally hundreds of millions of dollars of electricity every year because there is too much renewable energy during the middle of the day, and we don't have enough batteries to store that energy, nowhere near. It's true. Now, that will change within a few years' time because of all the batteries we're building here in Australia. But as it is today, if we added hundreds of thousands of electric cars and people charge them during the middle of the day, it actually wouldn't cost a single cent more, technically. That's the crazy thing. The other crazy thing is solar is being installed at a record pace. The number of solar systems is not a record pace, but the actual amount of solar is, because the average solar system size being installed today in Australia is double the size of 5 years ago. He went on to say, if you think about that in context of the Australian electricity system, that's a lot less than the amount of renewables we're curtailing. My key point there, the actual electricity we would need to add 1 million EVs to the grid is less than the amount of renewables we're curtailing or just getting rid of. So the energy is in the system, and we can tailor it right now because there's negative prices during the day, and we're flooding the system with solar that could quite easily go into EVs with a fleet of 1 million vehicles, in my opinion. The other thing is, by the time we have 1 million vehicles here in Australia, there'll be a lot more renewable energy. It's being installed at an incredible pace because solar is so cheap. Batteries now are being installed at a record pace here in Australia because they are now so much cheaper than what they used to be.